It is 2018. I'm 35 years old and about to coach one of the most important games of my career so far. I'm head coach of the Belgian national field hockey team, the Red Panthers. I'm super excited, well prepared. It's my first World Cup, my first role in international hockey. And the team is about to play Japan to try and get us to the next stage of the tournament. And the stadium around me is filling up. A huge amount of Belgian fans in the stands as well. Family, friends, all there to support us. Players are pumped, focused. Staff is well prepared and ready. And it's just one of those days where you feel, yes, this one is ours. And then while I'm standing there, watching those scenes pass by, it happens. In a split second, that one question goes through my body. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I wish I was just up there in the stands, watching. And it took me 2 more years in which ratio, fear, and ego took over before I finally had the courage to listen to that intuitive signal that I had to change something. It was my own daughter telling me it was not the environment, it was not the job I started to dislike more and more. No, it was me. That's her. It's a beauty, isn't she? So imagine traveling 100 days a year and went back home tired and not present at all. And these travel bags being packed and unpacked so many times. And a 2.5-year-old who just wants her father around. It's 4 a.m. and it happens for the 4th time that night. I have an important game tomorrow. And she is waking me up again. Daddy, Daddy, are you home? A soft, vulnerable but beautiful voice sounds from the room next to us. And the contrast between that beautiful voice and my initial reaction is immense. I feel the anger. I mutter, I curse, and I storm into a room and I see my big hands grabbing those tiny little arms. And I hear myself shout, "And now you shut up. It's the 4th time this night. I have to sleep. I have an important game tomorrow. I'm going to take all your cuddles away and close your door." Boom! And I walk back into my own room. I'll crawl into bed, shaking all over. It's dead silent. And my wife next to me, she's awake, doesn't talk. But I know I have to go back. I go back into a room, I sit on her bed, and I explain her, "Lilou, what just happened, it's not about you. It's about Daddy not feeling well. Come sit with me, honey. I should never, ever have shouted at you like that." And I remember like it was yesterday. She falls asleep here on my right leg. And I stay in for a few more minutes before I walk back into my own room. And I don't sleep that night. But damn, here I know. This is not what I want. This is not the man, husband, father, friend, colleague I want to be. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to say goodbye to the job I always dreamed of. And that was intense. And without a curiosity to deeply investigate what intuition was telling me back in London, I'd probably still be the person I started to dislike so much. Ego-driven, judgmental, and reason and fear as my biggest advisors. And in the end, I did listen. But I also found out how difficult that can be in a world which is so focused on ratio and knowledge. In our schools, we focus for 95% of the time on the development of that knowledge. In our working environments, we focus on numbers, data, KPIs, and outcome. We argue, we reason, we live in our heads all day long. But we are more than just a head. We have a heart as well, speaking with emotions and desires. And we have those inner sensations that in that belly area, so often called intuition. Now let's have a look at what intuition actually is. So I visualize it like the sun breaking through the clouds out of a sudden. And it's a good moment of the year for it. It's right there, unexpected, but warm. And those moments of clarity, like that perfect creative idea, that solution for the problem you were facing already for weeks, it's right there. When we least expect it, when we're under the shower, it's right there. When we're driving in the car, watching out of the window, waking up in the middle of the night, yes, that was what I was looking for. That's what I'm going to do. It's right there. And those moments of clarity we can differentiate in two types of intuition. Our brain, at first, is an extremely efficient pattern matching machine. So as human beings, everything we observe, consciously and subconsciously, we store here in our mind, like tiny little pictures, a lot of information, way more information than we can dig into right here and right now. But intuition can. So research shows the more experienced sports players are, the more decisions they take based on intuition, the better they perform. Think about Lionel Messi, Roger Federer, any sports team you see play well. And when you look at it, it seems so effortlessly. Most of those decisions are taken based on intuition. And in sports, it's quite obvious also. There's just not enough time. There's not enough time to connect all the dots to make a list of pros and cons on what's the next best pass to play. You just have to do it right in the moment. But it's not only in sports where it's so valid. So Dr. Gerd Gigerenzer, a German psychologist, well known for work in rationality, decision-making, intuition, he wrote about it last year. A lot of CEOs take 50% of their decisions, 50% of their decisions based on intuition. And what do they do after? They walk into the boardroom and they explain their decision with reason, data, and arguments. Or even worse, they hire an expensive consultancy company to research and write a 100-paper report to then show them something they already knew. And the second sort of intuition, I'll call it our inner compass. So that's not all that information in here, but that's those internal signals we get, like the one I had back in London, to check if we are doing what we truly want, if we are who we are, our inner compass. So what an abundance of wisdom, intuition, a true human superpower. So what makes that we don't use it more? What makes that it's so difficult to follow that instinct? Well, it's because it's sabotaged. And we let it happen. It's sabotaged. So let me explain. I suppose we all sometimes need a bit time off from work, our busy lives, to-do lists, obligations, expectations. And some of us do that with sports. Others do it by working in the garden, having a walk outside. Some do it with meditation, breath work, yoga. And what we do is we create an environment for our mind to rest, and subconsciously intuition will take the space. And for me, it's running. So when I create that environment, I need this guy. And yes, that's correct. That's me. It's quite accurate, no? The family knows their haircut, my intuitive self. So when I create that environment, I just go out and run and follow my instinct. I go left when I want to. I go right when I want to. I go fast when I want to, and I go home when I want to, without any distraction. No sports watch telling me this is your heart rate and you're not running hard enough. No phone in my pocket. No podcast in my ears. I create an environment where my mind can rest and intuition can take the space. And creating that environment is the essence. But it's also just the start. Because the real sabotage happens afterwards. So after such a moment of clarity, after, in my case, that run, this guy pops up. And now don't leave me hanging here. Don't leave me hanging. We all have one, an inner critic, and it can just as well be reason or fear. But after such a moment of clarity, after that run, I experience it like this. So a voice on my shoulder getting louder and louder. That idea you just had, are you sure? You really going to do that? You know what risk you are taking? How about the bank account? How about the family? You did this for 15 years and now you're going to stop? What are other people going to think? And the louder that voice gets on this shoulder, the quicker on the other shoulder, intuition just seems to run off. And this is not what we want. We want intuition to have a seat at the table. We need both. And how do we do that? With curiosity. So think about when you were a kid. Think about your own kids. Think about kids in your environment. How curious are they? Looking at the world without any judgment. Trying to find out how it all works, how it doesn't work, what works for them and what doesn't. And if we, with that curiosity on the one shoulder, look at, hey, what is that critical question actually about? What is reason actually trying to tell me? What if I listen to it? What would I take? But please do the same for that moment of clarity, for intuition on your other shoulder as well. With curiosity, without judgment, if I follow that inner voice, where would it take me? What would it bring? To then choose yourself. Who's in charge? You are, I am. And what happens so often is that the voice on that one shoulder gets so loud that it completely takes over. And it doesn't only take over from intuition, it also takes over from you and from me. So, what is your inner current game? In which fear, reason, or critic seem to take over? And what would be activated in you if intuition indeed gets a seat at the table? Where would your compass lead you if you truly listen? And if you now somehow feel Niels' talk is about to be finished, no? That might be an intuitive signal. You're right. Thank you.